Hey guys, so thanks for tuning in. So I'm here with my buddy, Ted Rubin, the man himself, the man who has redefined what it means to have a hairline that truly reflects infinity. So there he is. So hey Ted, how are you today?
I'm doing great today, Dave. One of the things I'm enjoying most is the way you categorize me. I might have to start using some of that in my personal branding.
Absolutely.
The
Feel
man
free.
with the hairline that goes to infinity. I mean, Seth
And
Godin
beyond.
could have grabbed that one, but it's going to be mine.
Exactly. Cool. So I think this is actually a perfect setup for the thing we're going to talk about, which is when does humor work in branding? I mean, it's something that we've seen done well and something that we've seen done horribly. I mean, what's your take on this?
My take is you have to be very careful with it, but most important, what I think the beauty of today is that you can try things and test things and listen and readjust if you make a mistake. So, granted, it's a different, if you're building a big multi-million-dollar commercial or buying an ad for the Super Bowl, you're taking a shot. And you're really going to have to think it through about what might work and what not, and what was it? The Mountain Dew, who was it that did the monkey diaper, crazy freaking thing?
I hated that.
Perfect example. I don't have a freaking clue what the ad was about.
Yeah.
All I knew is it was stupid, funny, and disgusting all at the same time. And I left it not only with no understanding of who the advertiser was, but I will tell you that most of the conversation I saw about it, nobody knew who the advertiser was except for advertising people.
Yeah.
And if you ask people today, I bet you'd be surprised at that. And they considered it a success because it was shared so much. So I think part of this conversation is not just about when is it appropriate, but is also about whether it's worth it half the time, and what you do to make sure it really relates to your brand, and that conversation can go on. So, for instance, I think last episode we were talking about Chipotle and what they did with their monster burrito, whatever stupid ad that
culinary monster piece.
We thought was totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
They were trying to make something funny out of something that's very serious. Whereas, when I would have totally thought that if I think it was JetBlue, where the guy, the flight attendant, took opened up the emergency exit and left the plane, and although that's a serious thing on a plane, it didn't happen in flight. The guy went a little off the deep end. If someone came to me and said they wanted to make fun of that, I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see that being something where, but if it had something to do with in flight where there was a real danger, then I'd say stay the hell away from that and either let it go or be serious about something. So yeah. I'd love to hear your take because we're kind of on different ends of this. You're more of a practitioner and they create a lot of these things for the brands, and I'm more of an observer or a social sharer where I get involved more after the fact. So I'd love to hear what your take is.
My take is, sometimes where I see brands go off the rails is that they'll go ahead and they'll think all of a sudden they've been transformed into a late night show host and they've got the right to poke fun at things, which first of all, that's just the wrong stance. It's great when a brand can actually have a sense of humor that's inclusive, that you and I get the joke, that we're looking at something, we're going, that's kind of weird. And I mean, and there's different levels, there's different layers of humor. There's the adolescent kind of humor that really is stupid and weird. Kind of like you said, there was sort of that weird sort of diaper creature monkey thing, which was, I think the words you said it was fun, disgusting, and entertaining at the same time, which I think describes most of the meals that we made as teenagers when we were growing up. They were fun, disgusting, and entertaining all at the same time. What is that? I don't know, but you know what? It looks all right. I'll eat it. So. And
by the way, I will point in that if it's directed at a male audience, much more likely it's going to work than a female audience because we are basically little boys. Yeah. I mean, we're basically fourth graders. That's what you are, not what am I? Kind of conversation. Totally. And then I think another time it's very appropriate is when you are embracing someone else who is making fun of you. Now, Arby's has done an incredible job of that.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yeah.
instance, with the whole Jon Stewart thing, where he was kind of putting down Arby's, and they wrapped their arms around it. Rob Lynch, the CMO of Arby's, has done an incredible job of seeing how people are talking about his product and then embracing that on the good side, where they're all about meat, and they've really jumped through that, that door of availability. And then the fun thing, when someone's making fun of their product and they're like disappointed to see him go because they were smart enough to know it kept them in the news and that he's a funny guy. So so people aren't getting angry about that making fun. It's more of something they can celebrate.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll just from the standpoint of tone, because tone is obviously a key part with regard to humor. Have you been following it all, like the late night show, the completely unexpected, no one expected him to be a success, the late night show host, James Corden? Have you been following him?
I have not.
Okay. Here's the thing. 12 months ago, here's the thing that I find fascinating. And this is where you can use, if you know your sweet spot, how you can do it well.
Is he the British guy?
He's the British guy.
Okay,
right?
I saw him last night. He's very funny.
Yeah, he is funny. So the thing is so he's plump. He's a plump guy. He's funny. He's self-effacing. He makes as much fun of himself as he does about other things he observes. But did you know, statistically, here's the thing. You know about this carpool karaoke? You've seen that, right?
Yes.
Okay. He started this carpool karaoke thing, and really it was just a matter of, he wanted to have a venue where we could kind of see people how they are outside of the normal perfect lights and perfect setup, all this kind of stuff. He has had on his YouTube channel over 800 million views in the last 12 months.
Holy cow.
And even to the point, I mean, so now he's done it was interesting to do the study because they ended up approaching people, and nobody would agree to do it. And then finally, after they were just tenacious, they said they finally landed Mariah Carey. She's the first one who agreed. And so he does it, and they do it well, and he happens to have a good voice. But the thing that's important to me, from the standpoint of the humor part, is he's really having a good time. And he's not there to have a good time at the expense of the celebrity he's with. His whole thing is, I'm going to make this be a good time. I'm going to make them look good. I'm going to have a good time, and it's going to be great for all my viewers. Right. And you get that. You feel like, oh, this is so cool. I'm so glad to be one of these cameras on the dashboard. This is awesome, right? And it's that kind of thing. You got to know your sweet spot, and you got to know how to use the humor. If you're talking to, and of course, if you're talking to an adolescent, audience, okay, that's the deal. And, and GoDaddy did a great job sort of being the really risque, what was it, probably about 10 years ago when they started with a scantily clad, chicks and all this kind of stuff in Super Bowl. First of all, everyone remembered who they were. They were controversial. If you want to see the rest of it, the unedited version, go to the website. So, I mean, it was smartly done. It did hit an audience. Look at who your actual viewers are for the Super Bowl. It was a very smart way of using humor.
And they embraced it as part of their brand. It wasn't a one-off. It wasn't, let's just shoot it out there. They made it part of who they were. They were that group of people. They were that brand.
Totally.
And to me, that really works. I'd have to say that if you just ask me off the cuff, I'd say it's either something that you have to make a part of your brand, not just a one-time thing, or it's like the Arby's thing where you're embracing somebody else making fun of you. Yeah. And instead of taking yourself too seriously, enjoying it and realize that you might have some power of something that's going to be really shared here. Yeah. Because also you're being a good sport, which I think shows a lot.
Totally. So what's your takeaway with regard to basically when does humor work in branding? What's the takeaway that you would have here?
I think the takeaway is it absolutely works if you're embracing somebody else, having some fun with your brand.
Yep.
Especially if they're not really making fun of you. They're having a little fun at your expense, but they're not putting you down at the same time.
That's right.
Which I think is a good time to embrace. And number two is if it's something that you're willing to embrace as part of your brand in the whole, not just a one-time, let's make fun of ourselves kind of thing.
Totally. I agree. And it's got to be something that it can't be treated as a Band-Aid. Either it's part of your culture and part of your personality, and very much, even like with what Virgin has done with their safety messages they're on air, the actual in the airplane, the safety message. They started it, and now I've seen Delta and other ones try to do it, and it's like guys, it's like it ain't your sweet spot. Or Virgin that's part of their culture. It's part of who they are. And so that's the thing that I think that has to be real, because some of these guys try and go, hey, let's all get in a conference room and try and copy what somebody else has done. And that to me is the recipe of the disaster. So I would say
unless you really can make it part of your culture.
There's a difference between being inspired by and then trying to
exactly
your version of Gary or your version of Ted or your version of me or whatever. It's like, look, just realize what is resonating there is an authenticity and a passion that is that person. So if you're going to emulate anything, find your authenticity and your passion, and that's our sweet spot, and that's awesome. Thanks, man.
Please hang up and try again.